You are lying in bed. It is late. The room is quiet. And then, without warning, it arrives. A memory from 7 years ago. Maybe 14. Maybe further back than that. You said something stupid at a party. You tripped in front of a crowd. You sent a message to the wrong person. You called a teacher mom. And your body reacts as if it is happening right now. Your stomach tightens. Your face flushes warm. You might actually wince, a full physical flinch, alone in the dark, at a memory that cannot hurt you. A moment that everyone else involved has completely forgotten. A moment that, by any rational measure, no longer exists. So why does your body still know exactly how it felt? This is not a glitch. This is not anxiety, at least not in the clinical sense. This is one of the most precisely engineered responses in the entire human nervous system. And once you understand why it exists, you will understand something about yourself that almost no one ever stops to examine. The mechanism has a name. Researchers call it the social pain network. And it is not a metaphor. It is a real, measurable system of brain structures that processes social failure the same way your body processes physical injury. The same regions. The same signals. The same chemical cascade. In 2003, a psychologist named Naomieisenberger at UCLA ran a study that changed how scientists thought about embarrassment, rejection, and social pain. She put participants inside a brain scanner and had them play a simple computer game where they tossed a virtual ball with 2 other players. Midway through the game, the other players stopped throwing the ball to the participant and began excluding them. The exclusion was brief. It was virtual. The other players were not even real people. And yet the brain scan showed something remarkable. The region that lit up during social exclusion was the same region that processes physical pain. The anteriorcingulatecortex, the part of your brain that registers when something hurts, fired in response to being left out of a computer game. Your brain does not have a separate system for social pain. It borrowed the hardware from the system that keeps you alive. Think about why that matters. Physical pain is a survival signal. Touch fire in your hand pulls back before your conscious mind even registers what happened. Pain is the body's fastest teacher. It associates actions with consequences at a speed that bypasses reason, because reason is too slow when your survival is at stake. The brain learned, very early in evolutionary history, that being rejected from the group was as dangerous as breaking a bone. More dangerous, maybe. A broken bone heals in weeks. A human expelled from their tribe in the ancient world was dead within days. So the brain gave social failure the same biological weight as physical injury. And that is where embarrassment comes from. Not from vanity. Not from sensitivity. Not from caring too much what other people think. Embarrassment is a survival alarm. It fires when you have violated a social norm in a way that threatens your standing in the group. It is your nervous system's way of saying, "This matters, pay attention, do not do this again." The flush of heat to the face. The sick drop in the stomach. The involuntary flinch. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs that a very old and very powerful system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. But here is where it gets stranger. Mark Leary, a social psychologist at Duke University who has spent decades studying self-esteem and social evaluation, describes something he calls the sociometer. The idea is this. Your self-esteem is not actually a measure of how good you are. It is not even really about you at all. It is a real-time gauge of how accepted you are by the people around you. It tracks your social standing the way a thermometer tracks temperature. And when that gauge drops, when something you do signals a drop in your value to the group, the system responds with emotional pain designed to get your attention and change your behavior. Embarrassment is the alarm on the sociometer. And the reason it persists, the reason it replays in the dark at 2 a.m, years after the event, is not irrational. It is calibration. The brain is rehearsing. It is running the memory again to extract every lesson it can, to sharpen the social map, to ensure that you never make that specific miscalculation in front of those specific kinds of people in that specific kind of situation again. The discomfort you feel during replay is not punishment. It is training. Besselvanderkolk, a trauma researcher whose work became widely known through his book on how the body stores experience, documented something in extreme trauma cases that illuminates what happens at a smaller scale in ordinary embarrassment. The body encodes emotionally significant events not just as cognitive memories but as physical states. A pattern of muscle tension, heart rate, hormonal activity, and nervous system response that gets stored alongside the narrative memory and reactivated when the memory is triggered. That is why you do not just remember the embarrassing moment. You feel it again, physically, every time it surfaces. Your body did not forget because your body was not designed to forget. Now consider what this means about the memories that replay most often. The moments that loop back most insistently are almost never neutral ones. They are almost never the moments where you performed perfectly, said exactly the right thing, and walked away without incident. The brain does not rehearse its successes with anything like the same intensity it rehearses its failures. Successes do not need to be improved upon. Failures do. And so the system selects for the moments where the sociometer dropped, where the social risk was highest, where the gap between how you wanted to be seen and how you were actually seen was the greatest. The gap. That is the key word. In the 1980s, the psychologist Charles Cooley had already described what he called the lookingglass self, the idea that your sense of who you are is partly constructed from your imagined sense of how you appear to others. You are not just a person. You are a person as perceived by other people, and you are constantly, unconsciously running a model of that perception in the background of your mind. When something disrupts that model, when reality and your imagined perception suddenly diverge in a public, visible way, the result is the specific flavor of distress we call embarrassment. The gap between who you meant to appear to be and who you actually appeared to be, for one mortifying moment, in front of witnesses. And your brain files it under urgent. Unresolved. Return to this. Which brings us back to the dark room. The quiet night. The memory that arrives unbidden and makes you wince. That memory keeps returning not because you are broken. Not because you are too sensitive or too self-absorbed or too anxious. It returns because a system designed for social survival is still doing its job, still flagging the same file as worth reviewing, still trying to extract one more lesson from a moment that felt, for a second, like a crack in the social fabric. The problem is not that the system runs. The problem is that the system does not always know when to stop. Because the world you live in now is not the world the system was designed for. In the ancient environment your brain evolved to navigate, a social group was 40 to 150 people, most of whom you would see every day for your entire life. A single embarrassing moment in front of that group had real, lasting consequences for your status. Your brain was right to treat it as significant. But now you live in a world of strangers. A world where the audience for your worst moment might be hundreds of people you will never see again. A world where the social stakes of a single awkward sentence are almost always lower than your nervous system reports. The gap between the alarm and the actual threat has never been wider. And yet the alarm still rings. Because evolution does not update in real time. Because the machinery that kept your ancestors alive is still running on ancient assumptions inside a modern world. Because the body keeps score long after the game is over, long after the crowd has gone home, long after everyone who was watching has completely forgotten what they saw. That hot flush of shame in the dark. That involuntary cringe at a memory you would give anything to erase. That is not a flaw in your design. That is the oldest social software your species ever wrote, still running, still trying to protect you, still convinced that your place in the group depends on what happened at that party, in that classroom, on that day. It was trying to keep you safe then. It is still trying to keep you safe now. It just does not always know that you already are.